Hey folks, happy Tuesday to you and happy March, by the way. We begin our March prayer calendar here in our daily devotionals. And the word for March here at the church is forgiveness. I have my prayer calendar here. We are exploring God's forgiveness during this month. If you need a copy of this calendar, you can get one in worship services. You can get one in the narthex, in the fellowship hall, in the office lobby. You can get one online. Go to FUMCCV.org. In the menu, prayer, and there's a link there. You can get it in the weekly email. You can also get it every morning on the church's Facebook the Facebook page. So lots of places you can give it. This might be the most important prayer calendar that we do of the year as we enter into this Lenten season just a day from now on Wednesday. So March 2022, forgiveness here at the church. We are exploring God's forgiveness. The question for the day is, how does God forgive? Now, one of the things I love about devotionals is that there's often questions like this, and you get to answer it however you want. I'm not exactly sure what our prayer ministry meant by asking this question. I don't know what kind of answers they were hoping to elicit, but it doesn't matter. This is the question that God gave them to include, and now you in your devotional get to receive this question and answer it in the way that's most helpful to your relationship with God. So I think about especially with the text that's here in Matthew 26, and I invite you to open your Bibles over to Matthew chapter 26. When I hear this, how does God forgive? I don't think of the sort of mechanism by which God forgives. I think of the totality by which God forgives. So let's read that passage, Matthew 26, and understand what is happening in this particular passage. So Jesus has entered into Jerusalem for the last week. He has just had his Passover meal, his final Passover meal with the disciples. He is instituting what we know as communion or the Lord's Supper. That's what we're going to read in a moment. He's soon to be arrested, on trial, tortured, crucified. But at the end of the Passover meal, all of his disciples are sitting there, we understand, and maybe even some others, not just the 12, but maybe some others are there at that meal. A good crowd had been following him by this time. And this is what the text says. While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to his disciples, and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." And so here is that word, forgiveness. We're going to talk about that word a lot this month. Maybe this might be the most important passage that we'll read this month about forgiveness. I want you to understand who was at that table and who was invited to partake in that particular ritual of the Last Supper. Peter was at that table. Peter is the one who Jesus presumably knew, because the very next thing that Jesus talks about in this Matthew text is foreshadowing Peter's denial of Jesus. But yet Jesus doesn't say, "I'm going to pass this around for your forgiveness, but Peter, it needs to skip you because you're about to deny me 3 times. Peter gets the meal. The other person who's there at the table, we understand, is Judas, who Jesus knows has already betrayed him. Remember, Judas has gone to the high priest and has said that he's a follower of Jesus, and the next night that they will be together in the garden, and that Judas will go up and he will kiss on the cheek the man who is Jesus to be arrested. So Judas has already set this plot in motion, and Jesus knows it. And yet at that table, Jesus doesn't say, "Judas, when it gets to you, brother, skip it. You don't deserve it. You don't get it. You're not worthy of forgiveness." Even Judas is given the meal, a meal that represents forgiveness. So he has set the plot in motion. He hasn't consummated the plot. He hasn't finished it yet, but it's in motion. There's still more wrong to be done. And Jesus is going to let him have that meal and be forgiven in that moment. That just shows the totality of God's forgiveness for us. If we could only believe that God would forgive us at the same depths that God forgave Peter and Judas, man, our lives would be so different. If we could only forgive others at the depth at which Jesus forgave Judas and Peter, our world would be so different. So we begin this forgiveness journey. It's not going to be an easy journey, but it will be worth it. God bless you. Have a great day.